The inner cosmos, unleashing your mind's infinite power. What you think and what you feel forge the very reality you experience. This audio isn't just a fleeting reflection. It's an epic journey into the transformative power that already dwells within you. Amidst the relentless clamor of daily life, we often forget that our mind is the most potent tool for shaping our existence. This sacred space is meticulously designed to awaken a fundamental truth within you. Your thoughts are the master keys to unlocking doors you never even knew existed. Here, you'll find no fleeting magic solutions or hollow promises. What you will discover is a profound guide, a compassionate companion that will lead you to reprogram your mind and align your inner being with the luminous future you yearn to build. This audio is a vital pause, a necessary breath, an intimate opportunity to reconnect with your truest self, to sow the seeds of love, unwavering trust, and infinite possibility. Guard your thoughts. Cherish your words. Anonymous author. Prologue. The silent genesis of reality. Every creation, every destiny, every truth begins with a thought, an idea, a whisper in the mind that, though invisible, wields the colossal power to create or destroy, to sow peace or unleash a storm. We dwell in a world where actions claim all the glory, yet it is in the subtle, unseen terrain of our thoughts where the tapestry of our lives truly begins to weave. This book is an audacious journey into the invisible realm, into the very crucible where our dreams are born, where our emotions surge, and where our greatest power resides. This isn't merely a collection of beautiful words or abstract theories. It's a blueprint for conscious action, a profound lesson in molding our reality from the inside out. For what you think, what you hold with unwavering faith and boundless love, ultimately manifests in your external world. It's a stark reminder you are far more powerful than you dare to believe. Within you exists a force capable of transforming the impossible into tangible, a radiant light poised to dispel any shadow. This book offers no magical formulas, but it unveils a simple yet monumental truth. Your thoughts are seeds, and you alone decide what you sow. Here, you'll unearth potent tools, gripping stories, and profound reflections that beckon you to look inward, to discover the hidden brilliance of your own mind and harness it as the engine propelling your life toward a future overflowing with purpose, peace, and abundance. It's time to cast aside doubt, to silence the clamor of fear, and to embrace the formidable power dormant within you. For, dear reader, what you choose to think today will be the legacy you forge tomorrow. Underscore. Chapter 1. The Awakening of Being, the Flame Within. They say the first whisper of awakening arrives like a gentle echo, as if the slumbering soul suddenly remembers something long forgotten. But what is this awakening? How does one truly know when they've begun to heed the call of their authentic self? I know, because it happened to me. I was in a phase of life where everything seemed fine. You know the kind of fine, I mean that insidious resignation disguised as contentment. Each morning, I'd wake, glance in the mirror, and say, "Here I am. Everything's in order. Everything's under control." But a tiny voice deep within, a persistent spark that refused to be extinguished, kept whispering, "Are you truly fine? Are you truly awake? Or are you merely walking asleep through your own life?" Has it ever happened to you that a question so simple, yet so profound, leaves no room for quick answers, only a searing silence? Yet that silence wasn't empty. It was a burning stillness. It was there that I discovered the flame, that incandescent light we all carry in our hearts. Let me tell you, with the unwavering conviction of my own journey, that flame never dies. It may dim, it may hide beneath layers of fear, routine, and conformity, but it is always there, patiently waiting. It is a flame of your truest being, that divine spark connecting you to the highest, most authentic version of yourself. The day I finally decided to listen to it, it was as if something within me had burst forth from a deep slumber. How did I know? Some might ask. Because when your true self awakens, everything you once believed to be solid begins to tremble. Suddenly, you can no longer tolerate the convenient lies you use to justify yourself. The job that only brings money, not joy, loses all meaning. Friendships maintained merely to fill time become burdensome. And love? Ah, love can no longer be a game of codependencies and emptiness. I told myself then, as I tell you now, this isn't wrong, but it's not right either. There's something more, something that has always been here, waiting for me to truly see it. And in that instant, as if a light had been switched on in a dark room, I understood. The key isn't to search outward, but to turn inward. The modern world teaches us to race, to accumulate, to believe that the more we achieve, the more complete we will become. But tell me, how can you fill your heart with things that are fleeting? Have you ever seen someone find eternal peace in a bank account or in the admiration of others? No. The answer is simple and direct. The flame burns within. Every person you encounter, every challenge, every daily circumstance is merely an opportunity for you to remember who you truly are. Because when your true self awakens, you begin to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. The person who shouts or criticizes you ceases to be an enemy. They become a teacher, showing you parts of yourself you haven't yet mastered. The traffic that once frustrated you transforms into a moment to breathe and be grateful. The failure you fear becomes a bridge to a grander version of yourself. Do you see? The awakening of being isn't a sudden cataclysm, though for some it may seem so. It's a delicate yet inevitable process, like the dawn replacing night. It begins with a faint sliver of light that's barely perceptible, but slowly, inexorably, it floods everything. People often ask me, what do I do if I still don't feel that flame? The answer is so simple, we often overlook it. Listen. Listen to the silence between your thoughts. Listen to the questions that make you uncomfortable. Listen when your heart tells you you've drifted too far from yourself. Listen because your true self never shouts, but it is always speaking. Every time you take a deep breath and choose to trust in that invisible power connecting you to something vaster than yourself, you are fanning the flame. Every time you choose love over fear, gratitude over complaint, truth over self-deception, you are awakening the true being within you. And when that flame grows, everything changes. Not because the world magically transforms, but because you change. You see with new eyes, feel with a different heart. You become someone who radiates light effortlessly, because light doesn't need effort to shine. It simply is. I want you to look at yourself right now. Yes, you reading these words. Look into your heart and ask, am I awake? If you feel you're not, don't worry. The flame is there. You just need to remember to nurture it until it becomes a roaring fire. Sometimes, simply saying aloud, I am here, I am ready to awaken, is enough. Because when your true self awakens, there's no turning back. You are free. And that freedom, dear reader, is priceless. It's the greatest gift you can ever bestow upon yourself. That flame burning in your heart is yours. It always has been. It simply needs to awaken and for you to remember. Chapter 2, The Silence That Reveals All, a journey to the inner sanctuary. In a world that never stops talking, shouting, and demanding, silence can seem like an odd luxury, even a threat. Have you ever felt uneasy when everything falls silent, as if the air thickens and an invisible presence begins to whisper in your ears? It happened to me too. Silence doesn't arrive by accident. Silence arrives when you are ready to listen. For years, I lived trapped in noise, not just the clamor of the city, the voices, the obligations, but that other noise, the worst kind, the din of my own mind. It wouldn't stop talking. Questions that were never answered, fears that multiplied, judgments disguised as certainties. Every thought was like a door leading to another, darker one, and I could never find the exit. One day, after a storm that raged not outside but within me, I went for an aimless walk. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I just wanted to get away from everything, even from myself. And that's when I felt it. The silence. It wasn't an absence of sound. It wasn't emptiness. It was something else, something I had never experienced before. It was as if someone took my hand and invited me into a space that had always been there, waiting for me. What is this? I asked myself, almost in a whisper. Silence didn't answer with words, because silence doesn't speak. It reveals. It doesn't tell you what to do or offer instant answers, but if you have the courage to stay there, still and present, it shows you everything. And it is here that the true journey begins. Not to a distant place, not to another country, not to another life, but to your very own inner sanctuary, that sacred space where the purest truth resides, where there are no masks, no excuses. There, at the very core of your being, burns a light that has never been extinguished. Sometimes you just need to sit in silence to see it. But how do I get to that place? Many have asked me. I'll tell you how I did it. By ceasing to flee. Because that's what we do when we fill every minute with noise, distractions, and haste. We flee. But silence is patient. It waits for you. And when you finally stop, when you decide to look inward, you discover that the place you feared visiting isn't dark or empty. It is a temple. I sat one afternoon in front of a window, breathing deeply. At first, my mind tried to rebel. It told me things like, "Why are you wasting time? You have things to do. This is useless." The mind is like that, restless, capricious. But if you don't give into its game, it calms down. When the mind finally quieted, I could hear what I've been ignoring for years, a soft, familiar voice that said, "I am here. I have always been here." It was my true self. Not the character I constructed to please others, not the version of myself that conformed to life's demands. It was me in my most authentic form, in my eternal form. Silence then became my guide. It showed me everything I needed to see. The wounds I hadn't healed, the answers I already knew but refused to accept, the dreams I had buried under mountains of duties. It was like opening a treasure chest I had forgotten existed. I discovered something wonderful. Silence is not solitude. It is companionship. It is presence. It is a door that leads you to that home where you don't need words to know that everything is all right, where every doubt dissolves and every fear loses its power. Do you know what surprised me most? That everything we seek outside, peace, love, purpose, is already within us. We don't need to go far to find it. We just need to return home. And the path home is walked in silence. Next time life offers you a moment of stillness, don't reject it. Don't rush to fill it with noise. Stay there, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to hear? I assure you that if you remain in that space, if you breathe and allow silence to envelop you, something extraordinary will happen. You will stop feeling lost because you will understand that you never left, that you have always been home, that place of infinite peace, clarity, and love is you. Silence showed me everything. It showed me that there is nothing broken in me, nor in you, that we are complete, that we are light, that we are home. So, when everything becomes chaotic, when the world's noise overwhelms you, remember this. Silence is your refuge. In it, you will always find the answers you cannot hear when you're distracted by the external world. And when you find it, when you sit in the quiet of your own being, you will know you have returned home. Chapter 3. The Power of the Word. Create your world with a verb. It all began with a phrase someone uttered to me almost unconsciously. Be careful what you say, because words create. At that moment, I didn't pay attention. How could words, mere sounds evaporating into the air, possess such power? It was a thought bordering on the absurd. But life, patient and wise, always finds a way to teach us what we need to learn. It was much later when I truly grasped the power of the verb. I was going through one of those days where everything seemed to go wrong. An argument at home, an uncomfortable phone call, a series of events that screamed in unison, "You're not worth it. You can't do this. You're not enough." Words, you see, though at the time I didn't notice, every phrase I repeated within my mind was shaping my reality. Why does this happen to me? I'd ask myself bitterly. That tiny, dangerous question planted a seed that soon blossomed, because words are not just words. They are decrees. And every time we utter them, repeat them, or even think them, we are creating. The first time I realized the power of the word was in a moment of silence. I observed myself and was surprised to hear myself saying things I would never say to another person. How foolish you are. You can't handle this. Everything goes wrong for you. Imagine, would you speak to yourself like that if you were truly caring for yourself? Yet I did. I sat before a blank sheet of paper, and wrote down each of those phrases. Then I read them aloud. They sounded so cruel, so alien that I shuddered. Is this what I believe about myself? I asked, and there I understood words don't just describe a world, they create it. Every word is a brick, and with them, we build our reality. If we choose broken bricks, we build a home full of cracks. But if we select firm bricks, words filled with love, faith, and truth, we build a palace. It was then that I decided to conduct an experiment on myself. For 1 week, I resolved to monitor every word that left my mouth and every thought that passed through my mind. Whenever something negative arose, something that lowered my vibration, I replaced it with something positive, something true. For example, I can't do this became I can learn to do this, step by step. Everything goes wrong for me, transformed into every experience teaches and strengthens me. At first, it seemed like an absurd game. A part of me laughed, saying, "This won't work. It's just a trick." But something curious began to happen. As the days passed, I felt lighter. Life was still the same, but I was no longer the same. Because here's the secret. The word has life. It is energy in motion. When you say something, you are planting it in the invisible field of your existence. And sooner or later, what you've sown begins to grow. Have you ever noticed how people who complain all day seem to attract even more things to complain about? Conversely, those who bless, give thanks, and speak with love seem to walk under a different light. It's not magic, though it may seem so. It's the law of the verb. Everything you utter with conviction becomes your reality. I recall one particular morning. The sky was gray, traffic was heavy, and the whole day promised to be chaotic. The old version of me would have said, "Today will be a terrible day." But instead, I took a deep breath and declared, "Thank you for this day. Everything is happening for my highest good, and today I will find something beautiful, even in the unexpected." I won't lie, it wasn't a perfect day, but something shifted. As the day unfolded, I found small miracles hidden around every corner. A smile on the face of a stranger, an unexpected call bringing good news, a moment of calm amidst the hustle. And then I confirmed it. Words are keys that open doors. If you choose words of love, gratitude, and certainty, you open doors of light. If you choose words of fear, anger, and lack, you open doors that lead to darkness. Here's a question for you. What are you creating with your words? Because believe it or not, every time you speak, every time you think, you are painting the canvas of your life. Is a masterpiece or a smudge of doubt and reproach. The verb, dear reader, is a divine gift. It is the most powerful tool you possess, but like all power, it must be used consciously. Guard what you say, because the universe is always listening. Speak with love, with faith, with gratitude. Speak of what you want to see, not what you fear. And if one day you catch yourself uttering something you don't wish to create, stop, smile, and say, "I cancel that. I decree light, love, and truth." You'll be amazed at how quickly the world begins to reflect your words. Because that's how we speak, we create, we live. Today, here and now, decide. Decide to be conscious of the power you wield. Decide to use the verb to build a life that inspires you, that fills your heart. Because believe me, everything begins with a word. And if you allow me, this is my word for you. Trust. Chapter 4, Mentalism. All you see is what you believe. When I was little, I used to play a game, closing my eyes and imagining different worlds. Who hasn't done that? In my mind, I could be anything. A ballerina twirling among golden lights, an explorer finding hidden treasures, a creator of universes. But there was something curious. When I opened my eyes again, reality seemed exactly the same, gray and mundane. I didn't understand then what I know with absolute certainty today. The mind doesn't just dream. The mind creates. Years later, amidst one of those moments we call a crisis, I first grasped the meaning of mentalism. It was an ordinary morning when my life seemed to be crumbling piece by piece. I sat down, not knowing what to do, and looked around. Everything I saw seemed difficult, unsustainable. A job that didn't fulfill me, empty relationships, a future that was blurring. And then I asked myself, why does my life feel this way? The answer came swiftly. because that's what you believed. Do you understand? Life wasn't what surrounded me. Life was what I was projecting from my mind. I didn't see possibilities because I didn't believe in them. I didn't see love because I didn't believe I deserved it. I didn't see paths because I only believed in walls. Here, I tell you with love and firmness, everything you see is a reflection of what you believe, not the other way around. Most people think they must see something to believe in it, as if reality were an already painted canvas and not their own work in progress. But the universe doesn't operate that way. The mind is the primary creator, the invisible brush that shapes everything you experience. And how do I change it, you might ask? I asked myself that question too, and the answer came with the same simplicity as the blowing wind. Change what you believe. Do you believe you're not enough? Then life will confirm it. Do you believe everything goes wrong for you? Then you'll find 1,000 proofs it's true. Do you believe love is difficult and scarce? Then love will remain elusive, hidden behind your own fears. That day I decided to try. I got up from the floor where I had been sitting and looked at the same room, but with different eyes. I said aloud, everything I see can change if I change what I believe. From that moment on, every thought became a conscious act. I observed myself as I never had before. Every time something negative arose in my mind, a doubt, a fear, a criticism, I paused and replaced it with new belief. For example, I can't do this transformed into I can learn to do this step by step. Everything is going wrong became everything is happening for my highest good, even if I don't see it yet. And little by little, something miraculous began to happen. The life that once seemed fixed and immutable began to move, to change. Because here's the key. The universe responds to your mind. Everything you believe, you project. Everything you project, you live. I'll tell you an anecdote. Years ago, I met a woman who, despite having everything, lived in complaint. She constantly said, I have no luck. Everything costs me more than others. And, hard as it was to believe, life seemed to confirm it. Why? I asked her one day. Because it's the truth, she replied firmly. I propose a challenge. For 7 days, she had to change her words and thoughts. I asked her, even if she didn't feel it, to repeat every morning, life smiles upon me. Everything flows in my favor. At first, she did with skepticism, but by the 3rd day, she noticed something different. An unexpected call with good news. A conversation in a place where she had only found serious faces before. A solution to a problem she had been dragging for weeks. It wasn't that the world had changed. She had changed her way of seeing it. Because everything begins in the mind. If you believe in light, you will see light. If you believe in darkness, you will live in it. If you believe in abundance, life will deliver it to you. If you believe in scarcity, it will confirm your suspicions. But what if I can't change what I believe? Dear reader, here's the great secret. You can, because beliefs are not absolute truths. They are repeated thoughts. If you have repeated for years that you can't, that you don't deserve, that there's no way out, why not start repeating the opposite? I invite you to observe yourself today. What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about the world around you? If you don't like what you see, remember this. The change begins in your mind. Decide to believe in something new, in something greater, in something more loving. Do it even if you don't feel it at first. Do it as an act of faith. Because when you change what you believe, everything you see changes with you. Mentalism is not an abstract concept. It is the most powerful truth that exists. Your mind is the key. Use the word, the image, and the certainty. And never forget, you are the creator of your world. Chapter 5. The Path of Faith, Separating Heaven from Earth. Faith, a small word, yet one that upholds entire universes. If you have ever felt the world collapsing around you, if you have ever looked up at the sky and asked, why me? Then you know how fragile faith can seem. I know because I lived it too. When I first heard about faith, I confused it with something external. I thought it was like a coin you could exchange for miracles if you prayed enough or did what was expected of you. But over the years, I learned that faith isn't a promise of rewards. It's an act of absolute surrender. How to trust when everything seems lost. That was the question that haunted me for years. No matter how many books I read or how many comforting words I heard, when life shakes you, when the ground opens beneath your feet, there's no room for pretty theories. Faith becomes something very real, or it is nothing at all. I remember a particular moment, one of those days when you wonder if there's truly a purpose for so much pain. Life seemed like an endless chain of obstacles, and I felt incapable of even jumping the first one. I sat in my room with my eyes closed and said aloud, "I can't do this anymore. I give up." But it wasn't the surrender that weakens us. It wasn't a defeat of someone who gives up, but the surrender of someone who decides to trust. Those words, spoken from the depths of my being, became an invisible bridge between my fear and something much greater than myself. But what is faith? I asked myself at that instant, and the answer came like a caress. Faith is trusting without seeing. It is separating heaven from earth, even when your eyes only perceive darkness. It is choosing to believe in the light, even when everything around you screams the opposite. The curious thing about faith is that it's not about certainties, but about decisions. It's a leap into the void, yes, but not just any void. It's a leap into the arms of something you can't explain, but feel with your whole being. Faith is the invisible certainty that the universe sustains you, even when you don't understand how or why. Some will say that faith is naive, that it's for children or people who don't want to face reality. I used to think the same, until life taught me that faith isn't blind. Faith sees what the eyes cannot reach. It's like a compass pointing north, even if you don't yet know how to get there. Let me tell you something I learned along the way. Every time you choose faith, something inside you changes. The struggle becomes surrender. Doubt turns into possibility. Fear dissolves as if the sun began to illuminate a dark room. But how do I have faith when everything is against me? You might be asking. I understand. I asked that question many times too. The answer isn't in seeking external signs. It's in creating the sign within. Faith begins with a small decision, trusting that even if you don't see it today, something wonderful is on its way. Not because life is perfect, but because you choose to walk hand in hand with the certainty that everything happens for your highest good. The day I decided to surrender to faith, something curious began to happen. No, the problems didn't magically disappear, but my perspective changed. I stopped seeing them as punishments and started seeing them as opportunities. The closed door was no longer a wall, but an invitation to seek another path. The storm was no longer an enemy, but a teacher coming to show me something I didn't yet understand. And little by little, faith did its work. Like a seed growing in silence, my world began to transform. Not because everything outside changed, but because I changed. And when you change, the world has no choice but to reflect it. Today, I can tell you with certainty, faith isn't a magic wand that solves all your problems. It's a light that guides you as you traverse them. It's the anchor that holds you when the waves are too strong. It's the voice that whispers, "Trust, this too shall pass." If you are reading this, I want you to pause, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what if today I choose to trust? What if, instead of resisting, I decide to surrender to the flow of life? What if I believe the universe is on my side, even when I don't understand it? Faith doesn't eliminate pain, but it transforms it. Faith doesn't change the past, but it redraws the future. Faith doesn't need proof, because it is the proof. And so, step by step, you learn to separate heaven from earth. You discover that heaven isn't a distant place you'll reach someday, but a state of the soul you can experience here and now. A heaven revealed every time you choose to trust and love in life and in yourself. Because the path of faith, dear reader, is not outward, it is inward. Chapter 6. Transmuting the past, the magic of the violet flame. When we speak of the past, we often carry it as if it were a stone tied around our necks. We walk with it day after day, accumulating burdens without realizing it. We say things like, "This is who I am because this happened to me. If things had been different, I'd be happy today." I understood. The past, that invisible puppeteer, kept pulling the strings of my present. Chapter 8. Breaking Chains, the truth that sets us free. For years, I lived without realizing I was trapped. Not in a physical prison or iron chains, but in something far more powerful. The limiting beliefs I had accepted as truth. They were so subtle, so mundane, they had become invisible like the air you breathe. They were there without my noticing. You're not good enough. That's not for you. Life is hard. That's just how it is. These phrases, which seem insignificant when you hear them once or twice, become invisible chains when you repeat them within your mind for years. Perhaps they sound familiar to you. Perhaps, like me, you grew up believing them without questioning. But let me tell you something. Every chain can be broken, and it all begins with a single word: truth. The first time I heard that the truth sets you free, I didn't fully understand it. It sounded beautiful, almost poetic, but empty. What truth? Whose? How could something so abstract free me from something so real? Life, as always, took it upon itself to teach me everything. It all started one day when I felt utterly defeated. I looked at my reality as if it were a film that didn't belong to me. Everything I worked on seemed stagnant. The relationships around me were superficial, and my own inner voice had become my greatest tormentor. Why am I here? Why do I feel this way? I asked myself in front of the mirror. The answer struck me suddenly, because I had accepted living under lies. Lies that others had told me. Lies that I myself had chosen to repeat. I had become a prisoner of ideas that didn't even belong to me. And then I knew, if I want to be free, I had to find my truth. I began to question everything. Every time a limiting thought entered my mind, I'd ask, is this true? Is it really mine? Or did someone tell me and I believed it without asking? I discovered that many of these ideas came from voices of the past, a childhood criticism, an unfair comparison, a failure I had transformed into my identity. They were chains that not only bound me but defined me, and there I was, giving them the power to govern my present. But how do you break those chains? You might be asking. The answer is as simple as it is powerful. With truth. Truth is like light entering a dark room. You don't need to fight the darkness, because the light dispels it instantly. The same happens with the lies you believed. When you find your truth, the chains break on their own. Let me tell you something I did. I wrote down on a piece of paper every belief I felt was limiting me. I don't deserve to be happy. Money is evil. I'll never achieve it. I wrote them with brutal honesty, without censoring myself. And one by one, I confronted them. Beside each lie, I wrote a truth that challenged it. I don't deserve to be happy became, I am a being of light and love, and I deserve the best life has to offer. Money is evil, transformed into money is energy, and in my hands, it can be a tool for good. I'll never achieve it, changed to, I have everything I need to move forward, and the universe always has my back. When I finished, I felt as if a part of me had awakened. The truth liberated me from those invisible chains, not because the world around me changed, but because I was changing. Understanding this doesn't mean that doubts or fears disappear forever. No, they still appear, like old ghosts trying to return. But now I recognize them. Now I know I can stop, breathe, and ask, is what I'm feeling true or is it a lie disguised as certainty? Because truth, dear reader, has a different vibration. It's light, loving, expansive. When you find it, you know it. And every time you choose truth over lies, every time you choose to listen to your heart instead of voices that limit you, a chain breaks. This is how we begin to free ourselves, breaking one belief at a time, holding our truth like a lighthouse in the midst of the storm, remembering that we are not what we were told, nor what was done to us, nor what we think we are in our worst moments. We are infinite beings, created to be free. Today, I want to invite you to do the same. Observe your thoughts. Listen to the words you say to yourself. Ask, is this true? If the answer is no, change it. Speak your truth with strength, with love, with conviction, and watch as, little by little, the chains begin to unravel. Chapter 9, The Divine Breath, Breathing to Create Realities. I had never truly pondered the power of something as simple as breathing. Breath is so natural, so automatic, that we rarely stop to observe it. No matter what happens, the air keeps flowing in and out like a perfect cycle that sustains us without asking anything in return. But one day, in one of those moments when life forces you to pause, I understood what I had never noticed before. Every breath is an act of creation. It all began on one of those days when the world felt like a whirlwind, and I was merely a bystander. My mind was filled with noise, worries, plans, fears, and doubts that seemed to dance in my head without rest. I was exhausted, not physically, but on a deeper level, as if my soul had forgotten how to rest. I sat in a chair by the window, my gaze lost on the horizon, and for some reason I still don't understand, I focused on my breathing. I inhaled, exhaled. I inhaled again, this time slower, deeper, and suddenly I felt something different. A space, a pause between thoughts, a presence I couldn't describe but that embraced me with divine gentleness. It was then that I understood. Every breath brings with it the very breath of life. It's as if the entire universe bestows a gift with each inhale and asks us to return it with each exhale. We inhale possibility and exhale creation. We inhale the invisible and transform it into reality. But how can something so simple possess such power? I wondered. The answer arrived like a whisper. Because breath is sacred. It is a direct link between our physical being and our spiritual essence. It is the bridge that connects us to the creative source. That day, I decided to experience it consciously. I closed my eyes, and with each inhale, I imagined I was drawing light into my being. I visualized the air filling with love, with peace, with the presence of something vaster than myself. With each exhale, I released what no longer served me. Fear, doubt, anguish. I inhale light, I exhale shadow. I repeated to myself. Something began to change within me. The mental noise quieted. The body's tensions dissolved. And in that space of silence between one breath and another, I felt God, not a distant or judging God, but the loving energy that sustains everything. The divine breath was within me, just as it is within you and in all that exists. I discovered something more. Breath doesn't just calm, it creates. Every time you inhale, you bring a thought, an intention, a desire to life. And every time you exhale, you release it to the universe for manifestation. If you breathe with fear, you create fear. If you breathe with love, you create love. It's that simple, yet that profound. I began to use my breath as a tool to transform my reality. If I felt anxious, I breathed peace. If I felt limited, I breathed freedom. If I felt lost, I breathed clarity. And little by little, what seemed like a simple exercise became a sacred practice. Because here's the secret. Life responds to your intention. The energy you inhale becomes the substance of your thoughts, and your thoughts create your world. That's how creation works. You need nothing more than to be present and breathe with purpose. And what if I don't succeed? Some people ask me when I shared this. The answer is simple. It's not about succeeding. It's about experiencing. Breath doesn't demand perfection. It only asks for presence. It doesn't matter if your mind wanders or if your thoughts distract you. The only thing that matters is that for a few moments, you decide to be conscious of the gift the universe bestows with each inhale. If you ever feel overwhelmed, I want you to try this. Sit down, close your eyes, and breathe. But this time, do it with intention. As you inhale, mentally say, I receive love, peace, and life. As you exhale, say, I release love, gratitude, and trust. Do it again and again until you feel your body and soul begin to align with the perfect rhythm of the universe. Do you know why this works? Because breath is not just air. It is a divine breath that gives life to all that we are. It is a force that reminds us that we are not separated from the source, that there is no problem without a solution, no darkness without light. Today, I want you to remember this. Every time you breathe, you are creating. Every inhale is an opportunity to bring something new into your life. Every exhale is an opportunity to release what no longer serves you. In the simple act of breathing, you hold the power to transform your world. Because just as the universe breathes in cycles of creation and expansion, you too are creator realities, and it all begins with a simple, sacred, and profound breath. Chapter 10, The Soul's Mirror, Knowing Your Higher Self. For a long time, I questioned who I truly was, not the version I saw in the mirror each morning, nor the one others perceived when they looked at me, but me in my purest essence. Have you ever asked yourself that question? It's unsettling, Because when you do, everything you thought you were begins to tremble. Your appearance, your actions, your thoughts. It all seems like one mask after another. One day, after years of searching for answers outside, I understood that I had to turn my gaze inward. No one could show me what I needed to see, because my deepest truth could only be revealed by my own being. And that's when I heard for the first time, know your higher self. My higher self, I said aloud. And who is that? The idea seemed strange, as if they were talking about someone separate from me. But deep in my heart, something resonated. It was like a gentle echo inviting me to discover a place I had never been. I didn't know how to start, so I did the only thing I could. I sat in silence. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and asked for guidance, a hint that I wasn't alone in this quest. What happened next changed my life. In that space of calm, I felt, for the first time, the presence of something greater than my mind. It wasn't a voice or a figure. It was as if a soft, loving light enveloped me, and a certainty began to grow within. I am more than this body, more than these thoughts, more than this story. It was my higher self speaking to me, not with words, but with a presence so warm and familiar that I wonder how I could have ignored it for so long. Have you ever felt like that? As if a part of you was waiting, silent but patient, ready for you to recognize it? The higher self is that aspect of us that never errs, the one that sees beyond fear, ego, and limitations. It is who we truly are, our highest, most loving version. It is the mirror of the soul, and to find it, you just need to dare to look. It was then that I understood something that changed my perspective on life. Everything I see outside is merely a reflection of my inner world. If there is chaos in my world, it is because there is chaos within me. If there is love, it is because I have allowed love to flourish in my heart. The world, dear reader, is a mirror. What we project, we receive. What we believe, we create. But most importantly, this mirror also shows us a connection with our higher self. If you want to know it, if you want to feel that divine and wise part of yourself, you just need to look at yourself honestly and ask, am I living from my ego or from my higher self? I asked myself that question many times, and the answers weren't always easy, because the ego shouts, demands, competes. The ego wants to be right and fears losing control. In contrast, the higher self whispers, guides, trusts, and loves unconditionally. It is that voice that tells you, everything is all right, even when it doesn't seem so. You are enough, even when you feel small. You already are what you seek. You just need to remember it. The most wonderful thing about knowing your higher self is that once you do, there's no turning back. You begin to live from a different place, where fear loses its power and truth becomes your guide. Decisions become clearer, because they no longer stem from fear, but from the certainty that everything you need is within you. I remember a day when I felt lost, as if life was demanding more from me than I could give. I sat alone, breathed deeply, and asked for help. Show me the way. I said aloud. The answer came swiftly, but it wasn't external. There were no visible miracles or grand signs, only a certainty that arose from within. Trust yourself, because I am with you. That voice was none other than my higher self. It was as if an invisible hand reminded me that I am never, ever alone, that there's a part of me that always knows what to do. Since that day, every time I feel confused, I stop and look within. I close my eyes and let my soul speak to me, because a higher self isn't in some distant place. It's here, now, within you. It's the part of you that has never been harmed, the part that has always been connected to the source of all good. And when you learn to listen to it, when you recognize yourself in that mirror of the soul, something extraordinary happens. You find yourself. You discover that you don't need to search outside for what has always been within. You discover that you are light, love, and creative power. If you're wondering how to begin, I invite you to do the same thing I did. Sit in silence, breathe, and ask, who am I really? Allow the noise of your mind to calm, and make space for your higher self to respond. Don't seek grand words or signs. Seek that peace that arises when you know you are exactly where you need to be. Chapter 11, Vibrations and Energy, the Art of Harmonizing Existence. Everything in the universe vibrates. The stars in the sky, the earth beneath our feet, the leaves swaying in the wind. Even silence vibrates. And most fascinating of all, we vibrate too. We are energy in constant motion. And though we cannot see them, our vibrations speak louder than any words. The first time I heard that everything is energy, I felt like they were speaking a language I didn't understand. Energy? What did that truly mean for me? That word seemed reserved for complicated things. Science, electricity, some mystical concept far from my reality. But I soon understood that nothing could be simpler or more real than that. Everything I am, what I feel, what I think, is energy. I remember a day when I felt completely drained, not physically, but in that way that makes you feel heavy, as if carrying an invisible backpack full of stones. I sat in silence and asked myself, what's happening to me? I hadn't done anything out of the ordinary, but my body, my mind, and my spirit were unbalanced. Suddenly, an idea popped into my head. Check your vibration. At first, I didn't understand, but then I paused and began to observe myself. What was I thinking? What was I feeling? What was I allowing into my space? I realized that my thoughts were filled with worries, with fears disguised as doubts. My emotions vibrated with sadness, frustration, guilt. The people and situations I had allowed into my day only fueled that low frequency. It was as if I were tuning my existence to the wrong note. And there, I understood something that changed my life. My vibration determines my reality. But how does this work? I asked myself. The answer was as clear as dawn, like a track's like, if I vibrated in fear, I attracted more situations that caused fear. If I vibrated in love, love found a way to manifest in my life. We are like antennas, emitting and receiving energy all the time. The key was to learn to tune my vibration to what I wanted to experience. Have you ever noticed how you feel when you're near someone who radiates peace? It's as if their energy extends to you, and without realizing it, you start to feel better. The opposite also happens. Being near someone who vibrates with anger or negativity can drain you, without anyone saying a single word. That's vibration. That's energy. Then I asked myself another question. How do I harmonize my existence? The answer didn't come from a book or a complicated theory, but from the simplest and most profound experience. I consciously choose what I think, what I feel, and what I do. Vibration isn't something that happens by chance. It's something we choose moment by moment. The first thing I did was observe my thoughts. Every time I caught myself thinking something negative, something that lowered my vibration, I replaced it with something positive and loving. For example, I can't do this became I am capable. Everything is flowing in my favor. It always happens to me, transformed into every day is an opportunity for something new and wonderful. Afterward, I began to care for my emotions. Emotions are energy in motion, and you cannot ignore them, but you can transform them. If I felt anger or sadness, I allowed myself to feel it, but not to linger there. I breathed deeply, mentally enveloped myself in light, and repeated, I choose peace. I choose love. I choose to vibrate high. Finally, I learned to care for my environment, because everything around you, people, places, music, words, has a vibration that influences yours. I began to move away from what drained me and seek what nourished me. A sunrise, a sincere conversation, a song that uplifts the soul. And little by little, my life began to change, not because the external world was different, but because I had decided to harmonize with it. I discovered that when you vibrate in love, in gratitude, in joy, everything around you begins to reflect that energy. The people you meet, the opportunities that arrive, even challenges become lighter because you become a channel of light. Want to know a secret? You don't need to make grand efforts to change your vibration. It's enough to stop, breathe, and consciously choose. If you feel your energy is low, focus your attention on something beautiful. The sound of the wind, the embrace of someone you love, an affirmation that brings you back to truth. Everything in life has a frequency, and you have the power to decide which one you want to vibrate on. If you choose love, love will come. If you choose peace, peace will find you. If you choose light, you will be light for others. Existence is not something that happens to you. It is something you create. And the art of harmonizing your vibration is the most direct path to manifesting the life you truly deserve. So, today, here and now, I invite you to ask yourself, what frequency am I vibrating on? Is it the one I want? Because as soon as you decide, dear reader, the entire universe will respond. After all, we are energy, we are vibration, and we are creators of realities. Chapter 12, The Cosmos Balance, Between Darkness and Light. From a young age, I was taught that good and evil were opposite poles, eternal enemies fighting to dominate the world. It was easy to imagine them as two invisible armies clashing on an infinite battlefield. But over time, I discovered something very different. Good and evil are not enemies. They are parts of the same balance. Without one, the other could not exist. How can this be? I often ask myself. The first time I heard about cosmic balance was on one of those days when everything seemed to fall apart. I had lost something I considered important, and the pain I felt made me question everything. Why can life be so hard sometimes? Why does evil exist? Wouldn't everything be easier if only good existed? I sat by the window that afternoon, my eyes wet, my heart tired. The breeze entered gently, and amidst my internal storm, I felt a subtle presence, a thought that didn't come from my mind but from a deeper place. Everything has a purpose. Everything is balance. Balance! That word began to resonate within me, as if it wanted to unravel a mystery that had been hidden in my soul for years. Could it be that the things we call bad also had a necessary place in our existence? That in some way, they were part of a greater balance that we cannot always understand? It was then that I began to observe life from another perspective. I looked at nature, that perfect mirror of the cosmos, and found the answer I had been seeking. Day does not fight night. It complements it. Winter is not the enemy of summer. Together, they create the cycle of life. Storms are not punishments. They are the necessary pause for the earth to flourish with greater strength. The same happens within us. There are moments when everything seems bright, where joy and love fill us to overflowing. But there are also dark moments where pain, doubt, and fear visit us. And though they scare us, these shadows have a reason for being. Why do shadows exist? I asked myself again. The answer was clear. To show us where the light is. Without darkness, we would never know what it means to shine. Without challenges, we would not discover our true strength. Evil, if we can call it that, is nothing more than the temporary absence of good, an empty space that invites us to fill it with love and truth. But how can we find balance between these two poles? How do we stop fighting what we believe is wrong and begin to see the purpose behind everything? This is where life taught me its greatest lesson. Everything in the universe has its opposite, and our job is not to eliminate one of the poles, but to integrate them in harmony. It's not about denying darkness or surrendering to it. It's about understanding it, embracing it, and using it as a springboard to something greater. Every time I faced a difficult situation, one that seemed tinged with evil, I decided to look at it differently. I'd ask myself, what lesson is here for me? What is this shadow showing me about myself? Where can I find the light in the midst of this? And without fail, I always found something valuable. A pain became a door to forgiveness. A mistake taught me humility and patience. A loss reminded me of the importance of loving more intensely. The shadows ceased to be my enemies and became teachers. Because here's the secret. The balance of the cosmos is not found by choosing one side and rejecting the other, but by recognizing that both are necessary for our growth. It is at that midpoint where good and evil meet that we find our peace. Imagine for a moment that you could live without challenges, without shadows, without pain. At first, it would sound like paradise. But you would soon realize that without the night, you could never contemplate the stars. Without difficult moments, there would be no overcoming or evolution. Good, without the contrast of evil, would lose its meaning. So, dear reader, the next time you find yourself in a dark moment, in a place where it seems that evil has won, stop and breathe. Ask yourself, what balance is my soul seeking in this? What light can I find in the shadow? Don't fight what is, use it. Use every experience, good or bad, to draw closer to your true self, to that part of you that is in balance, even if everything outside seems chaotic. Because the cosmos, with all its perfection and mystery, is already in balance. Life doesn't need us to fix it. It needs us to understand it, to accept it, and to learn to flow with it. And when we do, when we stop seeing good and evil as enemies, we discover something wonderful. We are part of that perfect balance. Light and shadow coexist within us, not to destroy us, but to make us whole. Thus, good and evil cease to be a battle and become an eternal dance, one that teaches us that true harmony is not in eliminating what hurts us, but in transforming it. The balance of the cosmos, dear reader, also lives within you, and when you recognize it, everything in your life begins to find its place. Chapter 13, Divine Love, the force that contains all. They say love is the answer, but I used to ask, the answer to what? We live in a world where the word love is used for so many things that it seems to have lost its true essence. We say we love morning coffee, a song we like, a person who makes us happy. But that love, though important, is often conditioned, limited, and subject to the whims of the world. However, there's another kind of love, one that transcends all we can understand with the human mind, a love that contains everything, envelopes everything, sustains everything. Divine love. Divine love is not an abstract idea, though it may sometimes seem so. It is a force as real as the air you breathe, though you cannot see it. I discovered this force in one of the darkest moments of my life. Have you ever felt so small in the face of problems, so empty in the face of circumstances, that everything else loses meaning? That happened to me when I felt I had lost everything. There was no comfort, no answers, only a kind of thick silence that surrounded me. One night, amidst that darkness, I found myself looking at the sky. There were no clouds, not a single star in sight. But deep inside me, something lit up like a tiny spark that refused to go out. Almost without realizing it, I whispered a phrase I had never before uttered. God, if you exist, fill me with your love. I can't go on. I expected nothing. Perhaps it was an act of desperation, a cry into the invisible. But then something happened. There were no thunderclaps, no voices, but a gentle warmth began to grow within me, as if someone were embracing me from the inside. My tears continued to fall, but they were not of pain, but of relief. It was as if a force of presence held me and whispered, "You are not alone." That was the day I truly knew what divine love was. Not something to be sought externally, not something dependent on circumstances, but an inexhaustible source that lives within us, always there, waiting for us to remember its existence. But what does that love feel like? You might be asking. Divine love doesn't demand, doesn't judge, doesn't compare. It doesn't love you because you're perfect or because you do everything right. It loves you simply because you exist. It's a love that doesn't ask permission to enter, but needs you to accept it. It's that love that embraces you when you feel you can't go on, that calms you when everything around you is chaos, and that reminds you who you are when you've forgotten. Once someone told me, divine love is the essence of all that exists. At first, I didn't understand, but then I saw it. I saw in the way the sun rises every morning, without asking if we deserve its light. I saw it in the wind that caresses the leaves and in the ocean waves that come and go tirelessly. I saw it in the smallest moments, an unexpected smile, a kind gesture, a sincere hug. I saw it in difficult moments, when all seemed lost and an invisible force lifted me again. I discovered that there is no place in the universe where this love is not present. Even in the experiences that seem the hardest, in encounters that hurt us or goodbyes that break us, divine love is there, working in ways we sometimes cannot comprehend. And how can I feel in my life? Many have asked me. The answer is simple. Stop seeking it externally. Close your eyes, breathe, and call it. Speak to it as you would to a dear friend, someone who listens without judgment. Tell it, fill me with your love. Show me your presence. Help me to see life through your eyes. And wait, there is no way this love will not respond, because it is what you are, what you have always been. When I understood this, everything changed. I stopped searching outside for what was already within me. I stopped begging for love from people who couldn't give me what I myself wasn't giving. I stopped pleading for affection because I realized I was already full, complete, perfect in that love that contains everything. This love doesn't take away your problems, but it gives you the strength to traverse them. It doesn't prevent storms, but it reminds you that you can always find calm amidst the chaos. It doesn't make you perfect, but it accepts you exactly as you are, with every wound, every mistake, and every doubt. Divine love cannot be explained with words, but it can be felt. It feels like home, like a return to yourself. It's that voice that tells you, everything is all right. Everything is happening for your highest good. Trust. Today, I want to remind you, no matter where you are, no matter what you are experiencing, you're already loved beyond what you can imagine. That love sustains you, nourishes you, and guides you, even when you don't see it. You just need to open your heart, let it in, and allow it to transform every corner of your life. Because ultimately, dear reader, divine love is everything. It contains everything, and it lives within you. It has always been there. You just have to remember it. Chapter 14, Your Name, Your Destiny, the Secret of Inner Identity. From the moment we are born, we are gifted a name, a word that identifies us, a label that becomes part of who we are. But over time, a name becomes more than a simple combination of sounds. It's as if each letter holds a secret, a vibration, a silent clue to what we came here to be. At first, we don't understand its power. We say our name countless times without thinking, without feeling it, as if it meant nothing. But what if I told you that your name contains your destiny? I remember the day I was first asked, "Do you know what your name means?" At first, I laughed. Of course, I knew, or so I thought. But then, when I looked for meaning behind it, I realized something that shook me. It wasn't a coincidence. My name, the same one I had pronounced countless times without giving importance, contained the essence of who I was and who I could become. Names aren't just words. They are energy in motion. Each letter, each sound, vibrates at a frequency that resonates with our soul. It's as if the universe, in its infinite wisdom, gave us a secret key to remember our purpose. But to find that key, we need to do something very simple yet very difficult. Look inward. What does my name mean to me? I asked myself that night, sitting alone with my reflection in the mirror. Looking at myself was a challenge, and I don't mean physically, but what I really saw. For years, I had accepted others' definitions of who I should be. My name, my identity, had become filled with expectations, with labels others had placed on me, as if each letter carried a weight that didn't belong to me. You are this. You can't do that. You must be like this, they had told me so many times. Without realizing it, I had forgotten what my name truly meant, what I myself had come here to be. Perhaps it's happened to you. Perhaps, like me, you walk through life feeling disconnected from yourself, as if something were missing, as if a part of your being was waiting to be discovered. It was then that I made a decision. I was going to discover the secret of my inner identity, not the one others expected, but the one my soul already knew. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and slowly pronounced my name aloud, as if each letter were a mantra, a door that had to open within me. This is me. This is my destiny. This is my purpose. I whispered, and something inside me awakened. In that moment, I understood my name was not just a word. It was a calling. It was a confirmation that I had been chosen to live this life, with its lights and shadows, its challenges and its gifts. Pronouncing my name with love and intention was like lighting a spark that brought me back to myself. I want you to think about this. What do you feel when you say your name? Do you say it with pride, with love, or with indifference? Because the way you pronounce it reflects the relationship you have with yourself. If you feel your name doesn't belong to you, if you feel it weighs you down, it's because there's something within you that you haven't yet recognized, that you haven't yet claimed. Your name is more than a set of letters. It is a symbol of your existence, a vibration that connects your being with the universe. If you are reading this, I want you to close your eyes for a moment, breathe deeply, and say your name aloud. Don't say it as you do every day. Say it with intention, as if each syllable carried a piece of your soul. This is me. This is my truth. This is my path. Feel how it resonates within you. Feel how it brings you back to your center, how it clears doubts and fears. Because your name is not an accident. It is an affirmation. It is the way the universe calls you and the way you respond. There's immense power in recognizing yourself, in looking yourself in the face and declaring, I am who I am, not who others say you are, not who society expects you to be, but who you choose to be. That is your true identity, the one that comes from the soul, the one that vibrates beyond words. And when you begin to live from that place, when you pronounce your name with love and purpose, something wonderful happens. You become the creator of your destiny. No matter what you've lived through so far, no matter how many times you felt lost, you can always return to yourself. You can always remember who you are, because in the end, dear reader, your name is your destiny, and the secret of your inner identity is waiting for you to discover it. Repeat your name, love it, respect it, and let it be the key that opens the doors to your true self. Pronounce your name, reconnect, and walk towards your destiny. Chapter 15, The Freedom to Renounce Attachments. There comes a moment in life when you look around and ask yourself, who am I really? Not who you appear to be, not who others expect you to be, but who you are in your purest essence. Often, that question arrives when the world's noise fades and you're left alone with yourself, with a voice that lives within you, the one we sometimes ignore because its truth makes us uncomfortable. In that silence, I discovered something I didn't like. I wasn't free. I wasn't bound by visible chains or living in a physical prison, but there was something deeper that kept me trapped. My ego, that part of me that I had carefully built over the years, like a shining armor that promised to protect me from the world, but which in reality distanced me from what I most longed for, to be free. What is the ego? I asked that afternoon, as the sunset painted the sky with soft colors. The ego, I discovered, is not an enemy to be defeated. It is neither good nor bad. It simply is. It is the voice that tells you that you have to excel, that you have to win, that you cannot lose control. It is that part that needs constant validation, that compares, that judges, and that fears being small. For years, the ego was my silent guide. It pushed me to seek recognition, to prove to myself and others that I was enough. But the more I listened to it, the more I felt that something was missing. It was like walking with a mask on all the time, a mask that weighed, that squeezed, but that I dared not remove, because who would I be without it? I'd ask myself with fear, and there lay the trap. The ego had made me believe that without it, I didn't exist, that if I stopped seeking approval, I would cease to be valuable, that if I let go of control, life would crush me. But one day, amidst one of those storms that shake the soul, an inner voice whispered, freedom is not in winning, but in letting go. It was as if a ray of light had pierced through my shadows. For the first time, I understood that the ego was not my true self. It was just a role I had been playing. And letting it go didn't mean losing myself, but finding myself. That was the day I decided to renounce attachments. Not all at once, because the ego is cunning and likes to hide, but with love, with patience, and with a firm will know who I was beyond my fears, my achievements, and my failures. How do you let go of the ego? You might be asking. First, you have to observe it. The ego doesn't live in silence. It shouts, demands, and reacts. Every time I caught myself comparing myself to someone else, criticizing myself, or seeking validation, I would stop and tell myself, this is not me. This is my ego. I would observe it without judgment, like watching a river flow by, and I would say, thank you for trying to protect me, but today I choose to let go. Then I learned to ask myself, from where am I acting? Because the ego always seeks to gain something, power, control, recognition. In contrast, the true self, the one that lives deep within our soul, only seeks to give love, to give truth, to give peace. And in that act of giving without expecting anything in return, I began to experience something I had never felt before, freedom. The freedom of not having to prove anything to anyone. The freedom to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to not know everything. The freedom to stop searching outside for what already existed within me. It was then that I understood that beyond the ego, life feels light, fluid, true. You no longer need the world to applaud you, because the love you sought already lives within you. You no longer compare yourself, because you understand that every being is unique and perfect in its own way. You no longer fear letting go of control, because you trust that the universe always sustains you. And what happens to the ego afterward? You might ask. The ego doesn't disappear because it is part of our human experience, but it ceases to govern you. It becomes a servant, not a master. You learn to use it when you need it, but you don't allow it to take the helm of your life. Today, I invite you to look within yourself. Ask, what still binds me? What masks do I not want to give up? And when you find it, don't judge it. Observe with love and say, thank you, but today I choose to be free. Today I choose to let go. Because beyond the ego, dear reader, awaits the most beautiful freedom that exists. The freedom to be yourself, without attachments, without fear, without masks. Just you, in your purest essence, illuminating the world with the truth of who you truly are. Chapter 16, True Mastery, the Path to Perfection. When I heard the word perfection, I used to imagine an unattainable goal, a place no one ever reaches, no matter how hard they try throughout life. It seemed like a mountain without a summit, an ideal so out of reach that it only served to fill us with frustration and guilt. But over time, I understood that perfection wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't destination, it was a path. And true mastery didn't insist of being flawless, but of learning to walk with consciousness, love, and humility. I learned this lesson on one of those days when I felt I had failed at everything. I had done something I wasn't proud of, something that led me to judge myself harshly. I sat alone and listened as my mind attacked me with cruel words. Why can't you do it right? Why do you keep stumbling? I saw myself as small, limited, and full of doubts. And then, as if a different voice broke through my thoughts, a question arose from the depths of my being. What if perfection isn't what you think it is? I remained silent, as if that question was pointing to a door I had never seen. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and let the answer find me. In that instant, I understood something that changed everything. Perfection is not the absence of errors. It is constant evolution. The universe itself is perfect, not because it is static, but because it is always in motion, in change, in growth. Planets revolve in harmony. Seasons follow each other without pause. The sun rises and sets every day with the same precision. But that perfection does not exclude chaos. It does not fear moments of imbalance, because everything is part of the greater balance. So, how do I achieve mastery? I asked myself that night. The answer came like a whisper. By accepting that you are both a student and a master at the same time. There is no endpoint. There is no day when you can say, I've arrived. I'm perfect now. Mastery is not about arriving. It's about how you choose to walk the path. From that moment on, I decided I would no longer judge myself for my stumbles. Every mistake, every experience, every challenge was an opportunity to learn something new. Perfection was no longer an impossible standard. It became a state of presence, a daily commitment to my own evolution. True mastery, I discovered, begins with humility. It's recognizing that there's always something to learn. There's always a way to improve. But it's also knowing that in this very moment, you're already enough because you are exactly where you need to be. Have you noticed how life itself teaches you this? Look at a river. It doesn't stop because there are stones in its path. It flows around them, smooths them, transforms them over time. That is true perfection. To flow, adapt, transform without losing your essence. So, when you face a difficult moment, when you feel far from that idea you call perfection, remember this. You are already on the path. You don't need to rush. You don't need to fight. You just need to trust and take the next step with love. Mastery is not about never making mistakes, but about knowing how to get up with more wisdom each time. It's about learning to listen to your inner voice above the world's noise. It's about recognizing your light, even on dark days. It's about choosing love over fear again and again. But what if I'm not enough? I'd ask on days when doubt returned. The answer was clear. You are enough because you exist. You are enough because you are here, walking this path. Perfection is not in what you achieve, but in who you become as you advance. Every step you take, even the ones that seem small or misguided, brings you closer to your true essence. The path to perfection is not linear. There are ups and downs, sunny days and starless nights. But every experience, every encounter, every challenge has a purpose. To teach you to remember who you truly are. If today you feel you have strayed, if today you believe you are not perfect enough, stop and breathe. Look back and recognize how far you've come. Every step, even the most difficult ones, has been part of your mastery. Because true perfection is not in the absence of flaws, but in the ability to see beauty in your process. It is in the love with which you choose to treat yourself and others. It is in the patience with which you allow life to mold you, like a sculptor who never stops working on their most precious masterpiece. True mastery, dear reader, is the art of being yourself in constant evolution, in constant love. And when you understand this, when you let go of the need to be perfect and begin to live from your truth, you discover something wonderful. You're already perfect in your essence because you are part of perfection of the universe. Chapter 17, Between Fear and Faith, Embracing Inner Power. I've always believed that fear is a silent thief. It steals your sleep, your peace, and above all, your confidence in yourself. But the most dangerous thing isn't fear itself, but the power we give it when we choose to listen and obey it. For a long time, I lived trapped between two forces. Fear, which paralyzed me and whispered that I couldn't, and faith, which, though faint, was like a flame that refused to be extinguished. Fear entered my life disguised in many forms. It presented itself in the doubts that held me back before making a decision, in the voices that told me you're not enough, in the times I let an opportunity pass by fear of failure. Perhaps it sounds familiar to you. Perhaps, like me, you've also felt that knot in your chest that prevents you from moving, that shadow that screams it's better not to take risks. I remember a particular moment when fear had me completely dominated. I was about to make an important decision, one of those that can change the course of your life. But the more I thought about it, the more fear I felt. And it wasn't irrational fear, but one that seemed logical. What if it doesn't work? What if I make a mistake? What if I lose the little I have? Fear had me captive, filling my head with questions that had no answers but kept me frozen. I felt small, incapable of moving forward, as if every step was surrounded by invisible abysses. But then, in the midst of my internal storm, a different question appeared. What if it does work? It was as if something within me, something much stronger than fear, wanted to awaken me from that lethargy. That question was a voice of faith, that silent force that is always within us, waiting for us to choose to listen to it. I stood still, as if time had stopped. And then I understood something that changed everything. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space. Where there is fear, there is no faith. And where there is faith, fear cannot exist. But how do I choose faith when fear is so strong? I asked myself. The answer came like a soft whisper, as if the universe itself spoke to me. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is a decision to act despite it. That day, I knew that the only way to free myself from fear was to embrace my inner power. And that power, dear reader, doesn't come from outside. It's not given by success or the approval of others or perfect circumstances. It comes from the certainty that we are one with something much greater than ourselves. Faith isn't a pretty thought. It's an act of courage. It's taking the first step even if you don't see the whole path. It's trusting that even if everything seems dark, a light is waiting for you at the end. It's knowing that you're not alone, that the universe sustains you even when you doubt yourself. From that day on, every time fear knocked on my door, I chose to remember who I truly was. I'd sit in silence, breathe deeply, and tell myself, I am not alone. I have within me the same force that created the stars, the same love that sustains the world. Fear has no power over me, because I choose faith. I won't lie to you. Fear still appears. It always will, because it's part of our human experience. But the difference now is that I no longer give it control. I see it, I acknowledge it, and I choose not to listen to its lies. Instead, I choose to trust the voice of my soul and the faith that reminds me that everything is possible. If today you feel that fear is winning, I want you to do something. Close your eyes for a moment, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would I choose if I trusted myself and life completely? The answer that arises will be your truth, your guide, the light you need to take the next step, because the power is already within you. It always has been. All you need to do is embrace it. Let go of fear, let go of doubts, and choose faith. Choose to trust the path, even if you can't see it all. Choose to take the first step, even if your whole being trembles. Because every time you choose faith, you are telling the universe, I trust, I am ready, I am stronger than my fear. And I promise you, when you do that, when you dare to act with faith, something magical will happen. Fear will dissipate like a shadow vanishing when you turn on the light. You'll realize that the power was always yours, that you needed nothing more than to remember it. Between fear and faith, dear reader, you always have a choice. And when you choose faith, when you choose to trust in your inner power, you discover that there's no abyss you can't cross, no dream you can't achieve. Because faith doesn't just transform your life, it transforms you. Chapter 18, Silent Revolution, New Thought in Action. A revolution doesn't always begin with noise. Sometimes, the most profound transformations occur in silence, within us, where no one else can see. The world may appear the same, but you have changed, and when you change internally, everything around you begins to change as well. I learned this the day I decided to put something to the test that seemed too simple to be true, the power of my thoughts. I had been taught to believe in what I could see, touch, and measure, but never in the invisible. The mind was just a tool to solve problems. Or so I thought. But one day, someone told me, your thoughts create your reality. What you believe and hold in your mind, that manifests in your life. That can't be true, I replied, almost laughing. How can an idea, an image in my mind, change something as concrete as my circumstances? But deep down, something resonated, and though my logic wanted to deny it, my heart urged me to try. I started small, almost like a game. I chose a simple, positive thought, one I had never before considered. I repeated it mentally like a mantra, with a mix of skepticism and hope. Everything is working out in my favor. At first, nothing happened. The world remained the same, or so I thought. But something inside me began to shift. Every time a worry appeared, I reminded myself of that thought. Every time I faced a problem, I chose to trust it. And little by little, almost imperceptibly, reality began to move. Doors I thought were closed began to open. Situations that seemed chaotic started to organize themselves. The people I needed arrived at the perfect moment. It was then that I understood the mind is not a passive instrument. It is a generator of realities. The revolution had begun not externally, but internally. How does this work? I asked myself repeatedly. The new thought, as they later explained to me, isn't magic or a simple illusion. It's the conscious application of a universal law. Energy follows thought. Where you place your attention, you place your power. If you focus your mind on scarcity, fear, or difficulty, that's what you create and attract. But if you choose to focus on abundance, faith, and possibilities, the universe responds accordingly. So, I can change my life just by changing the way I think. The answer is a resounding yes. But it's not as simple as it seems. Because changing your thoughts involves revolutionizing your entire being. It means challenging beliefs you've held for years, giving up the habit of complaining, criticizing, and living in fear. Above all, it means courageously choosing what you want to think, even when the world tells you otherwise. I myself had to confront my own limits. There were times when everything seemed to go wrong, when my mind wanted to return to its old patterns. You can't do this. It won't work. It's impossible. But there, in that instant, is where the true revolution happens. Because every time I chose a new, higher thought, I felt as if I was freeing myself from an invisible prison, one that I myself had built. I understood that my thoughts didn't just affect me. They were seeds I planted in the world. Every thought of love, peace, or abundance was like a spark igniting a new reality, not just for me, but for everyone around me. Because new thought is not just a personal philosophy. It is a call to act from truth, from the awareness that we are creators of our experience. What would happen if we all started to think differently? I wonder one day. Imagine a world where people choose thoughts of love instead of fear, where each person takes responsibility for what they project and consciously decides to create a better reality. That would be a silent revolution, one that needs no shouts or flags, because its impact is felt in the deepest part of the soul. Since then, every day has become a conscious exercise. Every morning before starting my day, I take a moment to plant the seeds of my day. I close my eyes and choose thoughts that elevate me. Today I choose to see the good in everything. Today I choose to be a source of love and peace. Today I choose to trust that the universe works in my favor. It wasn't always easy. There were days when old doubts returned, when fear tried to sneak back in. But even in those moments, I remembered that I wasn't alone. There's a greater force, a divine intelligence that is always there, guiding us, sustaining us, helping us to see beyond our limitations. When we begin to think consciously, something wonderful happens. We become co-creators with that divine force. The universe responds to our vibrations, to our intentions, to our faith. And what once seemed impossible begins to take shape. Not because circumstances have changed, but because we have changed. Today, I want to invite you to look at your thoughts as if they were the roots of a tree. What are you planting? Are you nourishing your roots with love, with trust, with gratitude? Or are you letting them fill with doubt, fear, despair? Remember that every thought is a seed, and every seed has a potential to grow and flourish. Don't underestimate the power you have to change your life, and with it, the world around you. Your legacy doesn't begin with your actions. It begins with your thoughts. If you ever feel out of control, that life is moving too fast, or that everything is out of place, stop and breathe. Close your eyes and choose a new thought. One that elevates you, one that makes you feel the truth of your being. Repeat it until it becomes yours, until you feel it in every cell of your body. Because that's how the revolution begins, in silence, in your mind and in your heart. And when you do, when you take the power of your thoughts and align them with love, with faith, and with intention, the entire universe moves to accompany you. You are more powerful than you believe. Your mind is a channel, and your thoughts are the seed. Choose to sow with love and watch a new reality bloom before your eyes. Because when we change within, we change the world. That is a silent revolution of new thought. Chapter 19, The Hidden Light, Finding Heaven in the Mind. There was a time in my life when I believed that heaven was a distant place, something that existed only after this life. I imagined it filled with soft clouds, angels, and indescribable peace. But the more I thought about it, the more distant it felt. It was as if they were telling me that heaven doesn't belong to you now. It was then that life, as it always does, asked me a question that would change my way of seeing the world. What if heaven is already within you? What if it has always been there, waiting for you to discover it? The question baffled me. Heaven within me? I looked at my life and found nothing but problems, worries, and moments of chaos that seemed anything but heavenly. But deep down, something resonated. It was as if a soft voice told me that the answer had always been there, in the only place I had never looked, my mind. The mind, that infinite space where we create worlds, where our thoughts are born, where everything begins and everything ends. For years, I had allowed my mind to be filled with shadows. Fear, guilt, anguish, and doubts. I had believed that I had no control over them, that they were an inevitable part of existing. But then I understood something powerful. My mind is a temple where I can find heaven or hell, and the choice is mine. I remember the day I decided to explore that inner space. I sat in silence, with my eyes closed and my heart restless. The noise of my mind was deafening. Thoughts coming and going without control. Voices reminding me of everything I wasn't, everything I didn't have, everything I should fear. I felt like giving up. I can't silence this, I thought. But then I took a deep breath and decided to stay. It was as if, in the midst of the storm, I forced myself to remain still. While the chaos roared, a small light began to shine within me. It was barely visible, but it was there, waiting for me to see it. It was a hidden light, the same light that exists within each of us, though sometimes we cover it with layers of dark thoughts. That light, I understood, was a part of me that had never been touched by fear, pain, or circumstances. It was a divine spark that connected me to all that is good, all that is pure, all that is eternal. It was heaven. What if I can sustain this light? I asked myself. I decided to try. Every time a thought of fear or doubt appeared, I chose to return to that light. It wasn't easy at first. The shadows seemed stronger. But over time, the light began to grow. I realized that I didn't need to fight the darkness. I just had to turn on the light. It was then that I understood heaven is not a place. It is a state of mind. No matter what is happening outside, you can be in the most difficult moment of your life. But if you find heaven within you, nothing and no one can take away your peace. And how do I find it, you might ask? Start with a simple act. Choose your thoughts. Observe what happens in your mind and ask yourself, does this lead me to the light or away from it? If it's a thought of fear, let it go. If it's a thought of love, hold on to it and let it grow. Mentally repeat, I choose to see the light. I choose to find heaven in my mind. Do it again and again until it becomes a habit. You will discover that little by little, your mind ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a sanctuary. Peace will no longer be something external that depends on circumstances. It will be something that lives within you, ready to welcome you whenever you need it. That is the power we all have, though we often forget it. We are creators of our internal experience. Heaven is not out there waiting for you to deserve it. It is within you, waiting for you to choose it. From that day on, every time chaos knocks on my door, I close my eyes and seek the hidden light. I find it in my breath, in a word of love, in the simple act of trusting that everything is working out in my favor. And in that instant, heaven manifests, not because the world has changed, but because I've decided to see it differently. If today you feel that the noise in your mind is pulling you away from peace, I want you to remember this. The light is there, even if you don't see it yet. You don't need to look for it outside. You just need to calm down, breathe, and look within. The heaven you seek is not in the future, nor in some distant place. It is here, now, waiting for you in your mind. And when you find it, dear reader, you will discover the greatest miracle of all. The light you sought was always within you. Chapter 20. Creating a Conscious Future, the Power of Intentional Thought. I've always believed that the most powerful thing we possess is not our hands to build, nor our words to express, nor even our dreams to imagine. The most powerful thing we have is our thought. Every thought we generate is a seed, a vibration we cast into the universe, and although we cannot see it, its impact resonates far beyond what we imagine. I remember the first time I truly understood the power of my thoughts. It was an ordinary day, one of those when life seems to flow smoothly, but something within me was restless. My mind was full of worries, repeating the same things over and over. What if this doesn't work? What if everything goes wrong? It was as if my mind was trapped in a loop of doubt and fear. I stopped and asked myself, why do I think this way? What am I creating with these thoughts? The question left me motionless. Never before had I considered that my thoughts were acts of creation. I saw them as something fleeting, like clouds crossing the sky and disappearing. But then I realized that every thought leaves a footprint, an invisible legacy that shapes our reality. It was an awakening. I knew that if I wanted to change my life, I had to start by changing the way I thought. I couldn't keep sowing thoughts of fear and expect to reap a life of love and fullness. I had to be more conscious, more intentional, more loving with what I chose to think. But how do I do it? How do you transform a mind that has been programmed to react, to doubt, to fear? I began with a simple act, observing my thoughts without judging them. When a negative one appeared, I didn't ignore or fight it. I just acknowledged it and said, I see you, but I won't let you control me. And then I replaced it with something higher. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, I would think about everything that could go right. Instead of focusing on the problem, I would focus on the solution. Instead of fearing the future, I would create a conscious future, one that reflected the best of me. That practice changed everything. I realized that I was not a victim of my thoughts, but their creator. I was not at the mercy of my mind. I had the power to direct it, to mold it, to use it as a tool to build a life I wanted to live. Every thought, I understood, is like a stone we place on the path to our future. If we place thoughts of love, trust, and gratitude, we create a solid path, one that leads us towards a destiny of light. But if we fill that path with thoughts of doubt, fear, and negativity, we end up stumbling again and again. And what about the thoughts we've already had? Someone once asked me. The answer is simple. The past is already done, but the present is always in our hands. Every moment is an opportunity to choose a new thought, to change the direction of our energy. No matter how many times we have thought from fear, we can always start anew, here and now. So, Every day became a conscious exercise. Every morning before starting my day, I would take a moment to sow the seeds of my day. I would close my eyes and choose thoughts that uplifted me. Today I choose to see the good in everything. Today I choose to be a source of love and peace. Today I choose to trust that the universe works in my favor. It wasn't always easy. There were days when old doubts returned, when fear tried to creep back in. But even in those moments, I remembered that I wasn't alone. There is a greater force, a divine intelligence that is always there, guiding us, sustaining us, helping us to see beyond our limitations. When we begin to think consciously, something wonderful happens. We become co-creators with that divine force. The universe responds to our vibrations, to our intentions, to our faith. And what once seemed impossible begins to take shape, not because circumstances have changed, but because we have changed. Today, I want to invite you to look at your thoughts as if they were the roots of a tree. What are you planting? Are you nurturing your roots with love, with trust, with gratitude? Or are you letting them fill with doubt, fear, despair? Remember that every thought is a seed, and every seed has a potential to grow and flourish. Don't underestimate the power you have to change your life, and with it, the world around you. Your legacy doesn't begin with your actions. It begins with your thoughts. If you ever feel out of control, that life is moving too fast, or that everything is out of place, stop and breathe. Close your eyes and choose a new thought, one that reflects what you truly want to create. And hold it, nourish it, let it grow, because every thought you choose not only creates your present, it also builds your future. You are a powerful creator, and every time you think with love, with faith, and with intention, you are leaving a legacy that not only transforms your life, but also the lives of those around you. That is the true power of conscious thought, a legacy of light, love, and infinite possibility. If this audiobook has inspired you, imagine what more you could discover. Don't let knowledge and spiritual growth end here. Explore our complete playlist and immerse yourself in more transformative wisdom. Don't miss the opportunity to continue transforming your reality. Take the next step now. Thank you very much. Continue your transformation. If this resonated with you, don't leave it here. On the Chronicle of Knowledge channel, you'll find a complete playlist to follow this process step by step. Each chapter is designed to break one more excuse, to bring you a little closer to the you deserve to be. You're not alone, but you are responsible. Click, listen, and keep moving forward. Your transformation has only just begun.